What is going on, everybody? 'Tis I, the enigma of the gun airwaves, Miyanovich, welcoming you to Season 3 of the Liberal Gun Owners Lens podcast, where unprecedented perspectives are packed into the cargo hold for the LGO Lens spaceship Voyagio.
That's fucking Italian.
Don't believe that evolution is possible with guns and public safety in America? It's already happening, y'all. Minds are evolving. Think guns versus public safety is the only game in town, do ya? Think culture war is the big boss, do ya? Then keep your ass in the past. Everyone else, all aboard! Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Liberal Gun Owners Lens podcast. It is the ace of the gun space, the daddy-o of the Glocky. What? Who fucking cares? It is I, Miyanovich, and carrying on our master theme for the 2024 season, we are talking about the law again today, and who better to bring in to talk about the law than the Liberal Gun Owners and Liberal Gun Club double agent, Mark Oknyansky. Mark is an attorney in California, and he has been a contributing developer for both Liberal Gun Owners and the Liberal Gun Club's chapter in California, but also Mark is an important player in the general development of the Liberal Gun Club. This makes Mark a particularly dangerous little man, and he's one of the real ones. Hey, while we're talking about real ones, let me talk to you guys about real ones. I just wanted to say thank you to all of you real ones out there, because there are the real ones, and then there are the posers. There are the talkers, and there are the walkers. And as you know, I am a man who is all about the walkers, and the talkers matching the walkers, and the talking matching the walking. So recently, I did a podcast about, hey, everybody, wake the fuck up, and we really need to get down to brass tacks here, help out. And since that podcast, we have had, I would say, a couple handfuls of real ones step forward and do some nice things for Liberal Gun Owners on the Cheese Whiz level. That Cheese Whiz is very important. Those small monthly recurring donations, that kind of a commitment is very, very important for us. And some of you have stepped up with those kinds of Cheese Whizzers and some one-time Cheese Whizzers that were very much so appreciated. I see you, cats. When you do that, you're making a difference, and I see you. And I thank you for that. Many of you I've been in contact with. Personally, you know who you are. There is a thing. It is called the Community Support Corps, the Liberal Gun Owners Community Support Corps, and it is very, very important. Just about all of you that have a monthly donation set up for $10 or more have received a Liberal Gun Owners Community Support Corps patch. Many other people have no idea what it is because they do not pay attention or want to click on links or do anything like join the newsletter or anything like that. So those people will never know what the Community Support Corps is, but those of us who are in the real reality and those of us who are the real ones, we know what the Liberal Gun Owners Community Support Corps is. And those of you that are doing Community Support Corps type stuff, you are changing the world with your cheese whizzing. So we changed the world through cheese whizzing here. We're going to do it. I appreciate you guys. Back to MarkO. Mark Oknyansky, is one of the real ones. He's one of the real ones. How real is Mark Oknyansky? He went from, hey, I'm a Liberal Gun Owner too, somewhere in 2018, 2019. I recall the day, the first time I ever talked on the phone with Mark. I know exactly where I was. I was parked in downtown Asheville in my van. I remember what building I was facing. I remember the day, and it was a good day because Mark went from, hey, I'm a Liberal Gun Owner too, to being in the top of the developmental reality for liberal gun ownership in America, period. And if he's in the top of the developmental reality for liberal gun ownership in America, Mark Oknyansky is in the top of liberal gun ownership on planet Earth. So that's something that people need to understand. And for me too, or for Lara Smith, or Ed Gardner, or anybody else that's really busting their ass to do stuff for liberal gun ownership. When we're doing this stuff, and you guys kind of know us, we're the top people in the country for walking the walk. And if we're the top people in the country, we're the top people on the planet in the solar system. So you need to think about that. When we have a guy like Mark who does all kinds of shit, and he constantly does it, and he's constantly spending his own money to do things, he is one of the real ones. He is one of the top real ones in the country. That's what Mark is. A little education piece. We will be bringing back the term Bretzels in this series because I haven't been using it for a while. I'm not sure why, but there's nothing like talking about California to get me using the term Bretzels again. So what is Bretzels? Some of you might have just joined the podcast. Maybe you didn't listen to year one or last year. What the hell is Bretzels, Miyanovich? Let Miyanovich tell you what Bretzels is. It means twisty logic up in the brain box. When somebody is Bretzels, they're doing stuff that's crazy bullshit, out of whack, out of balance, out of touch with reality. That's Bretzels, right? We're pro mental health here. We don't want to stigmatize mental illness. But we do need a term for when people act crazy. And there's holy shit. In the gun reality, there is no lack of crazy. There's no lack of Bretzels in the gun reality. There's no lack of it. And there's no lack of Bretzels in the political reality. And there's no lack of Bretzels in California. And there's what we're going to talk about this year. There's no lack of Bretzels when it comes to the law. This is something that I really want everybody to start to think about. I think there's a lot of people who believe that the law is like this pure, amazing, beautiful thing that does great things in the world and is so tight and stoically resonant with amazing shining power. Let me fucking tell you guys now, finally, now that we are years into an analysis of jurisprudence that not even lawyers do. They don't even do it. They don't do it in law school. In reality, law, from its inception all the way to implementation, there is a shit ton of Bretzels involved in it. There's Bretzels in the courts. There's Bretzels with lawyers. There's Bretzels with judges. There's Bretzels with policymakers. There's Bretzels in the academic milieu that's contributing to policymaking. There's Bretzels everywhere, right? And we want to de-Bretzel as much as we can the legal reality, at least our understanding of it, so we can impact these things in a way that doesn't contribute to law Bretzels, legal Bretzels, jurisprudential Bretzels. Okay? Today, in this series, MarkO and I are going to talk about two things. We're going to talk about liberal gun owning Bretzels, and we're going to do a breakdown on liberal gun ownership from the perspective of two nation-leading influencers who, in two different groups, are having the same issues with the same bullshit from liberals who own guns. That's the first part. The second episode is going to be about gun Bretzels in California. So please join me in this conversation about Bretzels with attorney and LGC double agent developer Mark Oknyansky. Mark Oknyansky, welcome to the Liberal Gun Owners Lens podcast, man. It's good to have you here.
It's good to be back.
Yeah.
You know, it's fun to be here.
I wish I didn't have you on last year. Year one I did, year two I didn't. Things got busy. I'm trying to just expand out and get as many cats in as I can, different ideas. We were just talking about gun people don't do shit. We both have experiences now in two different gun organizations that have to do with liberals, where the liberals are like, it needs to change, do the thing. And then we go, okay, let's do a thing. And then they go, I can't, my grandma's dog has to watch the neighbor's cat that weekend. There's a lot of that shit. My almost the entirety of my experience with liberal gun owners is like that. And I could say from the liberal gun owners standpoint that it almost ruined the company. It almost destroyed things. It was so bad because I was trying to focus on community connection so much and doing so much with the community that I wasted tens of thousands of dollars chasing people. That's how bad it is for me. How's it going for you? Do you see some of the same things in your experience and maybe some other organizations that you might be involved in?
Absolutely. I know we're so involved in liberal gun causes. It's easy to forget that almost every organization kind of feels like that, except it does. You do feel that more here. I've been a member of LGO for a few years now, and so I've seen some of your struggles. And as you know, I'm a member of the Liberal Gun Club as well, and they have the same struggles. It's the same thing. I've been going to SHOT Show a couple of years and now 2 years now, and I'm out there trying to do things, and when I come back and report, hey, here's what the industry wants to see from the people on the left for them to buy in more, that there's a whole half of the country that may own guns that isn't on the right, and you get faced with I don't, same thing you just said. That's nice, but can I just go to SHOT Show? I was like, well, okay. People ignore the fact that I have volunteered my personal time to lead parts of the organization, to be part of your organization, and to actually do the things that we say we need to do. And I worked my way up to that. and people are like, well, I don't want to go to this event, but I'll come hang out in Las Vegas with you. I'm like, it doesn't work that way.
Well, nobody wants to go to the grindstone and actually fucking sacrifice. It's a typical human thing. I think part of the issue is on our side. Well, I don't know what the contributing factor is to the fact that people don't have a relationship to the realities of merit. I don't know. Like, there's a couple things. The new internet reality, I think a lot of people that are into guns that are on the left are into them or able to gel with them because they spend a lot of time online. And because of that, they're not great at understanding the real world out there with the grass and the people. I think that's part of the issue. The other is that I think we are I would say we are importantly dedicated to ideas like equity, equality, and diversity. These are things that are important. But somehow through that, we lose a connection to utility and a connection to fucking what's real. And sometimes that not sometimes, that's a bad thing. That's what I would say. But those are my ideas. Generally speaking, I just think people talk but they don't walk.
And there's also how far people are willing to walk. And so you got to be fair. Some people get into it and they do what they can from their internet seat there in their home. A lot of people have jobs. Sometimes those jobs don't pay so well, and so it's hard to do the big things, go to the places, but I got to give credit to people who do things like start chapters or start doing range days. There are a lot of those people, but those same people will sometimes be like, "Oh, you want me to do more? Oh, no, I've reached my limit. Yeah. Basically, this is as much as I'm willing to do, and you already have it."
Yeah. And also people who have big hearts often their brains don't work as well as their heart works. So when we're online or we're into something, we feel like in our chest, like, I really want this to succeed and I really want to help, but we're not thinking about the logistics of our life, our other commitments, like that kind of stuff. And so we overpromise often. It's not the fact that people don't do shit. It's the fact that there's so much talk about doing shit and then there's not doing shit, right? That's my issue.
That's true. And that goes back to how you started this conversation about for a lot of people on the left, guns aren't the priority. And for a lot of them, it's a hobby, and it's a hobby for me. I also carry, so it's also part of my self-defense routine. But for some, it's purely just a hobby. Go out, plink on the range, kind of a thing, and they want the right to do that, and that they're happy enough with that. And then that's the end of their investment in the 2A.
Yeah. I think part of our responsibility here is we need to be able to educate people on the left on this deal, and that is, before these people dropped out of the sky and got into guns, it was happening before them, and there were liberals doing gun stuff before them, and then that travels into the now, and that's also going to travel into the future. Somebody has to oversee that continuing thing. Somebody has to be in charge of helping it and developing it and maintaining it. And it costs to do that. And it's labor intensive and it takes sacrifice. Somebody has to do that. For somebody to have in the future to be like, hey, I want to be a liberal who has fun with guns too. Or, hey, I want to defend life in the future and I'm a liberal too. Somebody has to be doing this, right? And I think that's lost on a lot of liberals who own guns. It's lost on them. They don't comprehend that. I think a lot of us are entitled, whether we believe it or not. We wake up and we think that everything needs to be just provided for us, or is just provided for us right there. And liberal gun ownership is, holy shit, it is not fucking that. Like, it is a few people bending themselves into a pretzel is what it is.
It's true. I don't disagree with what you just said. It's hard to inspire people to do more than just let me step back. It's hard to inspire people to even come out to events that you do everything for them. It's like, oh, I have to leave my house to do something, and that's too much for some people, unfortunately. But that's the nature of many organizations and things. But I guess we feel it more here because we're so involved with the liberal side of gun politics and gun usage.
Yeah, you mean with you and I, or just you in California, because it's a
you and I
kind of
is what I was
thing.
referencing. I mean, California is special. We're going to talk about what's happening in California, and we do have a lot of support. It's like you said, it's all verbal. It's like, sure, yeah, that's great, do that. But I'm not going to help you.
Yeah, and I'll bust in too, and I'll say it again to everybody that listens to this podcast, mostly, I don't know who, probably most LGO-ish type people. I try to make a point to say, those of you who do something, you are the biggest difference makers. Like, you're making giant differences just by $12 a year membership to LGC or a $10 a month or to LGO. This is making a giant impact, or a very important impact. So we recognize those people. And I think we recognize those people strongly because we know how many people don't do that. And the other thing that I think is my responsibility is what I've recognized is this isn't just about guns. There's an opportunity here for liberal gun owners as, I want to say, gifted people to change how things are done in society relative to some of the limits we see with tribalism and divisiveness and not being able to be nuanced. We're in a particularly good position here to make some big ass changes in how the world is handled. And this is what frustrates me. That makes it bigger than guns.
Yeah, that's what people forget, that we're not just here about guns. I mean, yes, we're here as two-way organizations, but at the same time, the way we talk about them and bring them into our lives, it necessarily means that we have to talk about mental health and other issues about society, about inequality, social services. It touches a lot more than just the gun part of it, because if you just focus on the gun part, yeah, guns are dangerous. And yeah, we could talk about guns, but if we don't address these other issues, society necessarily needs to rein in the one thing that they see that the media keeps blowing up is causing damage, and that's guns. So how do we address those concerns? That's part of the greater conversation we're having.
I made this point a couple times over the past few podcast, and that is, this area in guns is filled with dipshits. And I'm just telling people straight, like, as an entrepreneur, this soil is ripe for liberals to take leadership with thought leadership, maybe not in numbers, but thought leadership, because the most conservative gun people and the really the gun right absolutist types, and they don't even know where the playing field is on this one, man. They don't have the neurology for it. We do. And this is I think it's a once in a lifetime opportunity to get this meta accomplishment of stepping into a leadership place, a thought leadership place, in a place you would never think it would happen. And that's what makes it, like, if you're worried about other issues like abortion or the climate, okay, cool, those are going to be here. But we could knock this thing out in gun ownership in like a decade and be like the dudes that people go to ask for advice or leader guidance. Or if you want to change society, my opinion is there's no better place than guns right now. While the NRA is fucking floundering and the people in the gun community have their head rammed up their red, white, and blue ass. Like we could, this is a thing where we could change things pretty quick in about 10 years. Why not just get into it? Let's step on the gas and do it. It's my thought.
And you've seen that in the last 10 years. You went from a huge fight over background checks to everyone kind of normalized it. Nobody's saying that we shouldn't have background checks. You still see fight over, universal background checks and all that, but I don't hear as much fight on the right over that restriction anymore. Same thing with, mental health, the red flag laws. You're starting to see people on the right say, oh yeah, that's actually not such a bad idea if you do it right. And that all started on, the left saying, well, how do we address some of these issues? We start talking about them and they start becoming something, and it becomes less scary. It's okay. That's not really a restriction. Yeah. Do you want to keep guns out of people who we know are going to potentially cause harm with them, or former criminals, things like that? And the people on the right obviously say, well, yeah, we don't want bad guys to have guns. Like, okay, well, let's address that.
Yeah. If we could pull together more people on the left and step on the gas, it could be a giant win, and a giant win for 2A too. Not just a giant win for the gun related negatives. It could be a giant win for 2A too.
Absolutely, and you hit the right term there, the numbers. The problem we have on the left is the country doesn't feel the strength of the liberal side of gun ownership. When I go to SHOT Show, they're like, well, how many liberal gun owners are there? Like, people just don't know. And when I talk to companies, that's kind of what I was doing at SHOT Show. I was talking to these different companies and saying, there are people on the left that support the 2A. And here's why you should support us. And they always want to know, well, what are the numbers? Like, who are you? And so I tell everyone I can, like, even if you're not politically inclined, join one of the groups so it bolsters their numbers. Go to our annual event or something, and so that we can go, hey, here's how many people came to our event. You don't have to do anything more than that, because just doing that gives us the stats that we need to now go to, the Remingtons, whoever in the world, and say, look, we have a solid number for you of people that deserve your support and understanding, in your marketing, in, the policy, that your lobbyists are lobbying for, anything like that. It gives us a voice at the table in the industry, but you only get that voice with the numbers.
Well, a lot of gun ownership, I think new liberal gun ownership is sparked by, I'll call it, concern about the state of the world. But oftentimes it's that plus paranoia and a lot of introverted people and people who are online a lot. And so they don't see the establishment, the gun establishment, is something that they want to have a relationship with. They don't see any benefit. They want the guns and they want to be in their house and they want to be safe and they're worried about how the world is. But they see SHOT Show and these companies as something that they have no interest in, because those are the kind of the gun world establishment. And for a lot of left of center people, the gun world establishment is the enemy. It's not something to be worked with. It's something that you have to ignore.
And I do see a lot of that. Like, why are we trying to be on a level playing field with the right? Because they come from a morally superior high ground in their own minds. So why would we lower ourselves to try to talk to the other side? And I hear it from the other side too, because I've been there, and everyone's like, well, how could you vote the way you vote and still call yourself a 2A supporter? So there's a lot of that purity testing on both sides. And if both sides knew how similar they were to each other, they'd probably, break down crying. But we're working to get around that. I mean, you and I both are working to get around that and get people to talk to each other, and that's the only way we accomplish anything in this country.
Yeah, the grindstone is essential. If you like your rights, or you're a left of center person and you like self-defense, or you like your guns, somebody has to be at the grindstone. And when you're at the grindstone, you need to be able to be flexible and talk to people you normally wouldn't, or have relationships with people that you normally wouldn't. Mm-hmm. Another part of the sacrifice. I do think, Mark, in the end, though, what it's going to be is, yeah, I think we can achieve more support for people on our side. But I do think that the difference making is going to end up being still a smallish group of people. It's not going to be a massive group of people smacking into this gun status quo saying, and liberal gun ownership has arrived. I think it's going to be more like a special forces unit. It's going to be smaller.
I agree with that. I mean, from all the organizations I've been with, there's always a small group of people leading the charge and corralling, whoever they can corral to support them.
Yeah. Or I don't see any other way. There's no other way.
You look at any right, the woman's right to vote, Black equality, through Martin Luther King and all. It took decades of a small group of people organizing and taking the risk and both either political or physically. A lot of the people in the civil rights marches were physically harmed or arrested. It was a small group of people that organized other people, but for the most part, you have that special forces that's focused on that right, and eventually they succeed. Same on our end. Won't compare us to the greats of civil rights, but we. We're not out there marching in the streets, but at the same time, we're doing what we can, within our means to push this our beliefs forward.
Yeah, and I think it's in the end, if we just keep doing it, I think it's going to have a giant effect. People don't realize it, but even though you cats know now that we know that it's going to be a small group of people, you fuckers need to kitty up, fucking put the money in the kitty. Let's go. Like, we definitely need. The whole scene needs money. I mean, if you can't do anything, fucking $5 a month, what is it? It's nothing. But the whole movement needs money. That's for sure. It needs other things, but it needs money more than anything. And that's what I don't abide by. I see so much gun addiction, like in our group online, and another gun and more ammo that you don't need. And I've said this so many times on the podcast, but, man, if you just took some of that and kicked it in the kitty, we would, oh my God, we'd have so much more ability to get shit done.
It's funny that you say that, people post all these expensive guns they're buying or, all this ammo they're buying. And then you ask them, well, how much did you spend on, actual training last year? Oh, I don't know, not much. I took one class, so maybe something, it's the same thing with the LGO, and the LGC for that matter it's like, okay, well, why don't you take some of that and invest in the people who are trying to, who are actually taking the time out of their lives to help promote your rights to do all that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, people will enjoy their hobby until it's threatened or something like that. And then maybe they'll have a change of heart. Something big has to happen though, because I've been doing this for a while now, and there's a new stopping point, or we're just more and more surrounded by what I call black holes. There's just too many black holes. There has to be some kind of a super powerful breakthrough move here within the next couple of years. Otherwise, we're just going to be, what we are is just going to be dictated to by the status quo on both sides, on all sides. And I can't abide by that. I'm going to try to, at least on my end, do something that everybody goes, holy shit, what did that guy from Liberal Gun Owners, what? Like something like that changes everything, right? I think we've got moves like that. Not just me, you, Lara, other people involved have moves that they will make or can make, have potential to make, that can change things like big time. So that's what I'm looking for, like the breakthrough play.
Yeah, it's when you run for governor and win. That's your big breakthrough play.
If I run for governor and win, that is the sign that the apocalypse has officially arrived.
I will tell you, it is working though, what we're doing. When I was at SHOT Show, maybe the companies themselves officially won't take any position, but when I talk to some of the employees on the floor, they're like, hey, come over here. I follow you guys on social media. I love what you're doing. I'm like, well, you want to help me, maybe talk to your boss? He's like, no, but I will support you.
It is true. I've had some prominent people in the industry say, look, I cannot say this out in front of everybody, but we are definitely rooting for you. And that's cool. But there's also a version of that in liberal gun owners too. But it's more like, I so love this group, but my wife won't let me. Like that's our version of it. My wife won't let me stand out there and stand up, and I can't. She won't let me, which is indicative of some other shit that's probably going on in those relationships. That's more than that's not just guns. There's something else going on there, but there's a lot of that shit. My wife doesn't like it.
But this is the slow and steady approach. Like you remind people you're there, you show up at the things, you work with them, and eventually more and more people like that will be working for companies like that. And eventually you start seeing, political shifts within these companies of support. And then that's when the big thing happens where, the industry just like embraces liberal gun owners. It'll be because of that, because they have a good chunk of their staff that already supports it. And then the management looks at it and says, oh, well, if this is how many people we have within our group, imagine how many others are out there in the world.
Yeah, that is exactly what happened with Recoil magazine. Like, to me, not just because LGO was in Recoil and Chris Chang was on the, to me, Recoil represents the best, and it did before LGO. It represents to me the top magazine in guns. And at some point, and nobody knows how or why, Lars Smith became a writer for Recoil. And I don't know if Dave Merrill chose that I don't know who chose that, but Lars Smith is left of center, and they let him write articles and pull things together related to that. Mm-hmm. And so I would guess that's most likely how Chris Chang got on the cover, but that is most definitely how LGO got inside of Recoil. And so what you're talking about is that somebody ends up getting into these companies that isn't exactly your meat and potatoes, screaming eagle, I love the Jesus George Washington tag team combo, and that's the only thing that matters in guns. You get different perspectives. And I think the further we go down the road, the more people like Lars Smith you're going to have in these companies.
Yeah. I talked to him. I talked to somebody at Recoil at Shaw. I think it was him. I'm trying to find a picture. Yeah. Very nice guy. But you're absolutely right. That's
yeah. And Dave Merrill, the big chief, is actually a very nice guy too. Yeah. Very nice guy. I do think there are tens of thousands of us out there easily, and we easily spend well over $1 million a year on guns and ammo. And that should turn some heads. We just don't have the hard data on that, but we definitely spend over 7 figures on guns and ammo every year. There's no doubt about that. And that should cause people to think.
That might be a good project to undertake, to try to quantify, how many people identifying or voting on the left actually, how much they actually spend on gun parts, ammo, that kind of thing. Because that would make for some great marketing for when we talk to all these companies. Like, you shouldn't hate us. We're your customers.
It's something we can put on the vision board, like an anonymous polling for different things. My spidey sense is telling me that would be another annoying headache and people wouldn't do it. But it might be something we might want to think about. I'd definitely be willing to try at some point.
I wonder if there's a grant out there for that, because that's an expensive undertaking. People don't understand getting stats, doing that kind of poll. That's not a cheap undertaking, and that the reason it hasn't been done yet, A, is the motivation. It hasn't been there, and B, it just costs money, and people don't care how many liberal gun owners there are, because on the right they don't think we exist, and on the left they don't want they don't want you to know their own guns. So to have an anonymous poll would be interesting.
Another black hole. This is another black hole. This is why things don't move forward, is because we are legitimately up against the wholes of society. Like, we're not just up against they're not even liberals, most of them, but the liberals who don't own guns, and the right. We're also against our own, up against our own people's inertia. Like, this is why I like being in this position, because it feels like it's fucking impossible, and that's why I like it, because I want to accomplish it and go, we fucking did it anyway. Fucking did it anyway. I think there's a way. I love problem solving, and I love shit like this. Can we do it? I think we can, Mark. That's why I'm here. I could have left like many times. And there were many times where I thought about being done. But that was only because I kept hitting up against the black hole or the multiple black holes and was like, there's no way. But actually, I don't believe that's true. After I thought about it, I actually don't believe it's true. I think we can make a giant splash here and a big change, but it's just what I had to do is drop the idea that other liberal gun owners were going to be a part of that. Like, kind of not. They're kind of not. They're mostly just going to be on the side going, go, or not even knowing the difference between LGO and LGC or whatever. There's only going to be a select group of people that, I'm here to figure that out. I'm here to do the impossible. I'm actually fucking excited about that. So.
Me too. And people said the same thing, about me even going to SHOT Show and answering the questions I did. It's like, you're trying to change minds in, this kind of hotbed of conservative activity. Yeah. And some people accuse me of, being a masochist, but but it's a challenge. I like it. It's interesting. It's fun. And what keeps me in it is I actually see the change. Just in individual conversations, I'll share this story with you. They introduced an attorney general forum this year. Yeah. And so me being a lawyer, I was like, I'm going to go check it out. So it was an interesting experience because you have, I didn't realize there's a club of Republican attorneys general that they actually have meetings and stuff. It's interesting. But, they had all these Republican attorneys generals talking about, the challenges facing their state. And, as you can expect, the open borders bringing the cartels to Montana. Serious. This was a serious statement that I heard.
I believe you.
Yeah. In Indiana, apparently, aside from the open borders, there's also, epidemic of furries in their high school that they're really worried about. I wish I was making this up. I love it. I love it.
Although I might have to caucus with those cats on the furries because furries the shit freaks me out.
Yeah, it was an interesting conversation, but I kind of sat at the back. I recorded a lot of it. I got a new gimbal, so I was playing with that in the back while I was listening. And at the end, this woman comes up. She was sitting on her own too, just off to the side. I didn't really pay her much mind. She came up. She said, "Thank you." I said, "Well, thank you for what?" And you're welcome. But she's like, "Oh, well, for being here," because I was wearing my T-shirt, liberal. I had my backpack has a big unicorn sticker on it, and she's like, "Thank you. You sit through all of this and you keep coming, and I appreciate that you're doing that. It's important." And I said, "Oh, that's what I'm here for, is to have the conversations, etc." But what's her badge was covered. I was like, "Well, what's your name? Where do you work?" And she told me, and she ended up being the CFO of Smith & Wesson.
Nice.
Was there just hanging out, comes up and says thank you to me. And so the second I said, "Well, would Smith & Wesson be interested in supporting our group?" She's like, "Oh, we don't do political groups. Sorry."
Yeah. Well, but you know what? Look, man, fuck. Networking doesn't have to happen in a standard way, and there's so much special force action we can get involved in a non-standard way. That shit matters, and it matters that you were there. So there are things like that. You go and do that stuff. It's probably uncountable at this point how much time Lara has spent doing stuff without getting paid.
She's out there.
Oh, shit. She doesn't even get paid for it, man. These things.
And I'll give her a shout out. Like, I wouldn't have been at SHOT Show if it weren't for her. She has the connection. She does the media. She takes those difficult questions and liaisons with people you and I, would have difficulty liaisoning with or wouldn't want to. And she makes it happen. So she got us there. We had a booth last year. We didn't have the funds this year for a booth. So it's really just me and Lara and her husband at SHOT Show, just doing what we could.
And it's enough. I don't think we have to do all of it all the time. We just need to liberal gun ownership just needs to show up in places and do things, right? Plant seeds.
And it's important we show up consistently, because there was a talk about us not even coming this year. And I immediately said, no, we spent all this time and money having this booth, and us not going for a year, it just erases all that goodwill. And I'm glad we came. People were looking for us this year. Oh. And saying, "Why I can't find your booth? Where is it?"
Yeah.
I said, "We don't have one, but I'm here."
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's important that we do it consistently. Otherwise, you get forgotten.
Yeah. And it's also awesome that you guys go to SHOT Show. That means I don't have to fucking go to SHOT Show. That's like the best reason why.
Which is fine. We got your neighbor John Richardson, and he was way more fun to hang out with.
Cool. That's cool.
I'm just kidding.
That's cool with me.